It was a cold, moonless night when 15-year-old Ethan first heard the sound. A low rumble that shook the trees around him as he wandered through the dense woods near his small town. He had been out late, chasing fireflies with his flashlight, something he often did to escape the boredom of life in such a quiet place. But this time, it wasn't just bugs waiting for him in the dark. The noise grew louder, a metallic groan followed by a sudden crash somewhere deeper in the forest. Ethan froze, gripping his flashlight tightly. His heart raced as curiosity tugged at him. What if someone needed help? Or worse, what if it was dangerous? Still, he couldn't ignore it. Taking a deep breath, he moved forward, stepping carefully over fallen branches and roots. After 10 minutes of walking, the beam of his flashlight caught something strange ahead. It wasn't like anything he'd ever seen before, a sleek, silver object half buried in the ground, glowing faintly from cracks along its surface. Smoke curled into the air, and the smell of burnt metal filled his nose. This wasn't an airplane or any kind of vehicle he recognized. It looked alien. Ethan hesitated, but then he noticed movement near the wreckage. Squinting, he saw a figure slumped against one side of the craft. At first glance, they seemed human, small frame, pale skin, but as he got closer, details became clearer. Her eyes were too big, her limbs too long and delicate. She wore a tight-fitting suit made of some shimmering material, torn in places. Blood trickled down her arm. "Hey!" Ethan called softly, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "Are you okay?" The creature, no girl, looked up at him, fear flashing across her face. For a moment, she didn't move, staring at him as though trying to decide whether he was friend or foe. Then she spoke, her voice soft but musical, unlike anything Ethan had ever heard. "I need help," she said haltingly, struggling to form the words. Her accent was odd, almost melodic, but understandable. Without thinking twice, Ethan stepped closer. "What happened? Who are you?" She winced as she tried to stand, leaning heavily on the damaged ship behind her. "My name is Lyra," she whispered. "I'm not from here." Ethan blinked, unsure how to respond. Aliens weren't real, or so he'd always thought. Yet here she was, proof that everything he knew about the universe was wrong. Despite his shock, he couldn't leave her alone in the woods, injured and vulnerable. "Okay, Lyra," he said finally, offering her his hand. "Let's get you somewhere safe." Over the next few hours, Ethan helped Lyra limp back to an old shed on the edge of his family's property. It wasn't much, but it would keep her hidden while she recovered. As dawn broke, Ethan brought her water and bandages, doing his best to clean her wounds. She flinched at his touch, but thanked him quietly each time. As days passed, Ethan learned more about Lyra. She came from a distant planet called Vera, a world far beyond Earth's reach. Her people were advanced, capable of traveling between stars, but their technology had failed during her journey. Now stranded, she relied on Ethan for survival. In return, Lyra shared glimpses of her culture, stories of towering crystal cities, skies filled with multiple suns, and creatures that defied imagination. Ethan listened eagerly, captivated by her descriptions. Slowly, trust began to grow between them. One evening, as they sat together in the dim light of the shed, Lyra turned to Ethan with a serious expression. "You've done so much for me," she said. "But I must ask one more thing." "Anything," Ethan replied without hesitation. "When my people come for me," Lyra explained, "I want you to join me. Come with me to Vera. See the stars." Ethan stared at her, stunned. Leave Earth? Travel among the stars? It sounded impossible, yet thrilling. Before he could answer, Lyra added, "Promise me, Ethan. Promise you'll return someday." He nodded slowly, a mix of excitement and uncertainty swirling inside him. "I promise." Little did Ethan know, keeping that promise would change his life forever. Weeks turned into months, and Ethan's life became a careful balancing act. By day, he attended school, did chores around the house, and tried to act like a normal teenager. But by night, he was Lyra's protector, sneaking food from the kitchen, scavenging supplies from the shed, and keeping her hidden from prying eyes. His parents never suspected a thing. They thought their son was simply spending more time outdoors, exploring the woods like he always had. Lyra healed slowly, her alien biology both fascinating and frustrating. Her wounds closed faster than human injuries would, but she seemed weakened by Earth's environment. She explained that Varans were sensitive to certain elements in Earth's atmosphere, which made recovery harder. Despite this, her strength returned little by little, and so did her spirit. Ethan found himself looking forward to their late-night conversations. They talked about everything: Earth's history, Varan technology, music, dreams, fears. Lyra told him how her people valued knowledge above all else, dedicating their lives to understanding the universe. In turn, Ethan shared stories of his own world: the beauty of sunsets over fields, the sound of rain on rooftops, the thrill of riding his bike down winding country roads. Lyra listened intently, her large, luminous eyes filled with wonder. "You humans are strange," she said one evening, smiling faintly. "Your lives are so short compared to ours, yet you live them with such passion." "Short?" Ethan chuckled nervously. "I guess I've never thought about it that way. On Vera, we can live for centuries," Lyra explained. "But perhaps that's why we sometimes forget to cherish the moment. You, Ethan, you remind me of what it means to truly live." Her words lingered in his mind long after she fell asleep. For the first time, Ethan felt important, not just to his family or friends, but to someone who came from a place beyond stars. It was humbling, exhilarating, and terrifying all at once. One crisp autumn night, as golden leaves swirled in the wind, Lyra woke Ethan with urgent whispers. "They're coming," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. "Who?" Ethan asked groggily, sitting up quickly. "My people," Lyra replied. "The signal I sent when I crashed, it reached them. Their ship is near." Ethan's heart raced. This was it. The moment they'd been waiting for. He grabbed his jacket and followed Lyra outside, where the sky shimmered with an unnatural glow. A massive vessel descended silently, its surface reflecting the moonlight like liquid silver. It hovered above the clearing, casting shadows across the forest floor. A beam of light shot down, illuminating Lyra. She stepped forward, raising a hand to shield her eyes. From the ship emerged two figures, tall and graceful, clad in uniforms similar to Lyra's. Their faces were obscured by helmets, but their presence radiated authority. "Lyra of House Vera," one of them said, their voice deep and resonant. "You have caused significant concern among your kin." "I apologize," Lyra said, bowing her head slightly. "My journey was meant to expand our knowledge, but my craft malfunctioned. I owe my survival to this human." She gestured toward Ethan, who stood frozen beside her. The figures turned their attention to him, studying him with unreadable expressions. Ethan swallowed hard, feeling small under their scrutiny. "This human aided you?" one of them asked, skepticism evident in their tone. "Yes," Lyra said firmly. "Without him, I would not be standing here. He risked everything to protect me." The taller figure nodded slowly. "Very well. As gratitude for his actions, we shall grant him safe passage should he choose to accompany you back to Vera." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. This was real. This was happening. He glanced at Lyra, whose hopeful gaze urged him to make a decision. I promised I'd come," he stammered, stepping forward. "I'll go." Lyra's face lit up with relief and joy. The figures exchanged glances before nodding again. "Then prepare yourself, human. Your journey begins now." As Ethan climbed aboard the alien ship, he couldn't help but glance back at the forest. One last look at the only home he'd ever known. His heart ached with uncertainty, but also with anticipation. What awaited him on Vera? Would he belong there? Could he adapt to a world so different from his own? The interior of the ship was unlike anything Ethan could have imagined. Walls shimmered with shifting colors, and the air hummed with energy. Lyra guided him to a seat, explaining that the trip would take several days due to the vast distance between Earth and Vera. As the ship ascended, leaving Earth's atmosphere behind, Ethan pressed his face against the transparent panel, gazing out at the endless expanse of space. Stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across black velvet, and planets loomed in the distance, glowing softly. "It's beautiful," he murmured, awestruck. "Yes," Lyra agreed, joining him at the window. "But nothing compares to seeing Vera for the first time." For hours, they watched the cosmos unfold before them, sharing quiet moments of awe and reflection. Yet beneath Ethan's excitement lay a growing sense of unease. He didn't know what challenges awaited him on Vera, or whether he'd even be welcomed there. Still, he clung to the promise he'd made to Lyra. No matter what happened, he would see this through. After all, he reminded himself, humanity had always dreamed of reaching the stars. And now, thanks to Lyra, he was living that dream. But dreams, Ethan soon realized, often came with unexpected consequences. The journey to Vera felt both endless and fleeting. Ethan spent most of his time staring out at the stars, marveling at their brilliance while trying to wrap his mind around the enormity of what he was doing. Lyra stayed by his side, answering his countless questions about her world and its people. She warned him that not everyone would welcome him with open arms. Humans were unknown to the Verans, and some might view him as a curiosity, or even a threat. "You saved me," Lyra reminded him gently. "That will carry weight with my people. Trust me, Ethan. I won't let anything happen to you." Her words reassured him, but doubts still lingered in the back of his mind. What if he couldn't adapt? What if he made a mistake that offended someone important? He pushed those thoughts aside, focusing instead on the excitement of seeing an alien world for the first time. When they finally arrived, Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Vera was unlike anything he could have imagined. The planet glowed with soft hues of blue and green, its surface dotted with towering crystalline structures that refracted light into dazzling rainbows. Rivers of liquid shimmered like molten silver, winding through vast fields of luminescent plants. Above, 3 suns hung in the sky, casting overlapping shadows across the landscape. "It's incredible," Ethan whispered, unable to tear his eyes away from the view. Lyra smiled proudly. "Welcome to Vera." As the ship descended toward a sprawling city, Ethan noticed how different everything looked compared to Earth. Buildings weren't constructed of brick or steel, they seemed grown rather than built, their surfaces smooth and organic, pulsing faintly with inner light. Hovering vehicles zipped through the air, silent and efficient. Below, crowds of Verans moved gracefully, their elongated limbs and ethereal features making them appear almost otherworldly. When the ship landed, Lyra led Ethan outside, where a delegation awaited them. Dozens of Verans stood in perfect formation, their expressions unreadable beneath sleek helmets. At the center stood a tall figure adorned with intricate markings on their suit, a clear sign of authority. "Elder Kale," Lyra said, bowing deeply. "I am honored to return home." Kale studied her for a moment before nodding. "Your survival is commendable, Lyra. However, your decision to bring a human here raises concerns." Ethan stepped forward nervously, feeling every pair of eyes on him. I didn't mean to cause trouble," he stammered. "I just wanted to help Lyra." Kale tilted their head, studying him intently. "You display courage, human, coming to a world so foreign to you. Tell me, why did you agree to accompany Lyra?" Ethan hesitated, searching for the right words. "Because she trusted me," he said finally. "And because I promised her I would. I didn't want to break that promise." A murmur rippled through the crowd, and Kale's expression softened ever so slightly. "Honor is a trait we value highly," they said. "Perhaps there is more to learn from this human than we anticipated." With that, Kale motioned for the group to disperse. "Come, Lyra. And you, human, what is your name?" "Ethan," he replied quickly. "Ethan," Kale repeated, testing the sound of it. "You will stay in the guest quarters until further notice. We must determine your role here." Over the next few days, Ethan struggled to adjust to life on Vera. Everything was unfamiliar: the food, the language, the customs. Lyra did her best to guide him, teaching him basic phrases and explaining cultural norms. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider. One evening, as they walked through one of the glowing gardens, Ethan voiced his frustration. "I don't think anyone here really wants me around," he admitted. "They're polite, sure, but it's like they're just tolerating me." Lyra placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Give them time, Ethan. They've never encountered someone like you before. It's natural for them to be cautious." "But what if they send me back?" he asked quietly. "They won't," Lyra said firmly. "Not after everything you've done. Besides, I won't let them." Her confidence gave him strength, but doubts still lingered. That night, as he lay awake in his quarters, Ethan realized something important. He wasn't just fighting to prove himself to the Varans. He was fighting to prove himself to himself. The turning point came unexpectedly. One morning, Kale summoned Ethan to a grand chamber filled with holographic displays and floating screens. Scientists and scholars bustled around, analyzing data and discussing theories. Kale gestured for Ethan to approach. "We have been studying Earth," Kale explained. "Much of our knowledge comes from fragmented transmissions intercepted over the years. But your presence offers us a unique opportunity to learn directly from a human." Ethan blinked, surprised. "You want me to teach you about Earth?" "Yes," Kale said. "Your culture, your history, your way of thinking, it fascinates us. You may not realize it, Ethan, but you represent a perspective we lack." For the first time since arriving on Vera, Ethan felt a spark of purpose. He began sharing stories of Earth, its art, its music, its struggles and triumphs. The Varans listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and offering insights that challenged Ethan's own understanding of his world. Slowly but surely, attitudes began to shift. The Varans started treating Ethan less like an outsider and more like a valued contributor. Even Kale seemed impressed by his willingness to share openly. But as Ethan grew more comfortable, he couldn't ignore the growing sense that something was missing. Despite the wonders of Vera, despite the friendships he was forming, he couldn't shake the longing for home. One night, under the glow of Vera's triple moons, Lyra found him sitting alone in the garden. "You miss Earth, don't you?" she asked softly. Ethan nodded. "It's not that I don't love being here. I do. But part of me feels like I left something unfinished." Lyra smiled knowingly. "Then perhaps it's time for you to return." "Return?" Ethan echoed, stunned. "But I promised I'd stay." "And you kept that promise," Lyra said. "Now it's time to keep another, to yourself." Ethan stared at her, torn between gratitude and guilt. Could he really leave Vera and Lyra behind? Little did he know, his decision would set into motion events that would change both worlds forever. Ethan's mind raced as he processed Lyra's words. Leave Vera? Go back to Earth? It felt impossible, yet the idea tugged at him like an unspoken truth he'd been avoiding. He had promised Lyra he would stay, but deep down, he knew she was right. He couldn't ignore the pull of his own world. Still, the thought of leaving her behind filled him with guilt and sadness. "Are you sure about this?" Ethan asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Lyra nodded, her luminous eyes reflecting the soft glow of Vera's moons. "You've done so much for me, Ethan. You gave up everything to bring me here, to help me survive. Now it's your turn to follow your heart. Besides," she added with a small smile, "you'll always have a place here if you choose to return." Her words brought a strange mix of comfort and uncertainty. Could he really leave Vera after everything he'd experienced? And what would happen when he returned to Earth? Would anyone believe his story? More importantly, could he adjust to life on a planet that suddenly seemed so ordinary compared to the wonders of Vera? The next morning, Ethan approached Elder Kale to discuss his decision. To his surprise, Kale didn't seem shocked or disappointed. Instead, they listened intently, their expression thoughtful. "You have shared much of your world with us, Ethan," Kale said finally. "And in doing so, you have given us a gift we will cherish forever. Perhaps it is time for you to reclaim what is yours." "But what about Lyra?" Ethan asked hesitantly. "Will she be okay without me?" Kale glanced toward Lyra, who stood nearby, watching silently. Lyra has proven herself resilient and resourceful. She will continue to thrive among her people. As for you, Kale paused, their gaze steady. Your journey does not end here. There are lessons you must learn, and perhaps lessons you must teach, on both worlds. Ethan nodded slowly, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. With Kale's blessing, plans were set in motion for his return to Earth. The Varans prepared a small shuttle capable of making the journey, ensuring Ethan would arrive safely. Before he left, Lyra took him aside one last time. They stood together beneath the shimmering canopy of a Varan garden, surrounded by glowing plants that pulsed gently with light. I want you to take this, Lyra said, holding out a small, crystalline device. It fit neatly in the palm of Ethan's hand, its surface smooth and cool to the touch. What is it? Ethan asked, turning it over curiously. It's a communicator, Lyra explained. It will allow us to stay in contact, no matter the distance between us. And should you ever need help, or wish to return, you can use it to call for a ship. Ethan clenched the device tightly, gratitude swelling in his chest. Thank you, Lyra. For everything. She smiled softly, her large eyes glistening with emotion. Take care of yourself, Ethan. And remember, you'll always have a home here. As the moment stretched between them, Ethan realized how much Lyra had come to mean to him. She wasn't just an alien who had crash-landed on Earth. She was a friend, a guide, and someone who had changed his life forever. Saying goodbye felt like losing a part of himself, but he knew it was necessary. The day of Ethan's departure arrived sooner than he expected. A crowd of Varans gathered to see him off, their expressions ranging from curiosity to admiration. Even Kale was present, offering a final nod of respect. Farewell, Ethan, Kale said. May your path lead you to wisdom and peace. Thank you, Ethan replied, bowing deeply. For everything. Lyra walked with him to the shuttle, her steps slow and deliberate. When they reached the hatch, she stopped and turned to face him. This isn't goodbye, she said firmly. It's until next time. Ethan managed a shaky smile. Until next time. With one last glance at Lyra, he climbed aboard the shuttle. As the engines roared to life and the craft lifted into the sky, Ethan pressed his face against the window, watching Vera grow smaller and smaller until it disappeared entirely. Returning to Earth was jarring. The familiar sights and sounds of his hometown felt almost surreal after months spent on an alien planet. His parents greeted him with tears of relief, having believed him missing or worse. Explaining where he'd been proved challenging. How could he describe Vera without sounding insane? In the end, he settled for vague stories of wandering far from home and surviving on his own. Life quickly fell back into routine, but Ethan found himself constantly distracted. He carried the communicator everywhere, checking it often in hopes of hearing from Lyra. Days turned into weeks, and though he missed her terribly, he began to wonder if she'd forgotten about him. Then, one night as he lay awake staring at the stars, the communicator lit up with a faint hum. Startled, Ethan grabbed it and activated the device. A holographic image of Lyra appeared before him, her face glowing with warmth. Ethan, she said, her musical voice filling the room. I told you I wouldn't forget. Relief flooded through him, followed by joy. Lyra! I can't believe it's working. I wanted to check on you, she said. How is Earth treating you? It's different, Ethan admitted. Quieter. Simpler. But I miss Vera every day. And Vera misses you, Lyra replied. But don't worry. You'll be back soon enough. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? There's something I need to show you, Lyra said cryptically. Something important. Be ready, Ethan. Your journey is far from over. Before he could ask more, the connection faded, leaving him alone once again. Staring at the communicator, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. Whatever Lyra needed him for, he knew he couldn't refuse. Little did he realize the event set into motion by her message would bring him face to face with a challenge greater than anything he'd encountered before, one that would test his loyalty, his courage, and his ability to bridge two vastly different worlds. Ethan's life on Earth became a strange blend of normalcy and anticipation. He attended school, helped his parents around the house, and tried to act like any other teenager. But beneath the surface, he was constantly waiting for another message from Lyra, for answers about what she needed him for, and for the moment when he'd have to leave everything behind again. The communicator sat on his bedside table, glowing faintly in the dark like a beacon calling him back to Vera. Every night before bed, Ethan would pick it up, turning it over in his hands as if willing it to activate. Sometimes, he imagined hearing Lyra's voice again, her soft laughter filling his room. Other times, he worried that he'd misunderstood her last message, that maybe something had gone wrong, or worse, that she no longer trusted him. Then, one evening as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and red, the device hummed to life once more. Ethan nearly dropped it in surprise, his heart pounding as he scrambled to activate the hologram. Lyra's image flickered into view, her expression tense but determined. "Ethan," she said urgently, "I need you to come back to Vera. Now." "What's wrong?" Ethan asked, alarm rising in his chest. "There's trouble here," Lyra explained quickly. "A faction within our people, they don't trust humans. They see your presence as a threat and are using your time on Vera to argue against further contact with Earth. If they succeed, it could mean war, not just for us, but for both our worlds." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. War? Between Earth and Vera? The thought was unimaginable, yet terrifyingly real. "I'll do whatever I can to help," he said firmly. "But how do I get there?" "A ship is already en route to retrieve you," Lyra replied. "It should arrive within the hour. Pack lightly, only essentials, and be ready." Before Ethan could respond, the connection cut off, leaving him staring at the now dormant communicator. His mind raced as he grabbed a small backpack and stuffed it with clothes, a flashlight, and a few personal items. What could he possibly do to prevent a war? He was just a teenager from a small town, not some kind of diplomat or hero. Still, he couldn't ignore the urgency in Lyra's voice. Whatever was happening on Vera, it was serious, and somehow, he was part of the solution. An hour later, the familiar hum of an alien engine filled the air outside Ethan's window. Peering cautiously through the curtains, he saw the sleek silver shuttle descending silently into the clearing near his house. Without hesitation, he slipped out of his room and made his way to the craft, careful not to wake his sleeping parents. As he climbed aboard, a Veran pilot greeted him with a curt nod. "Lyra sent us," they said simply before initiating takeoff. Within moments, the shuttle was airborne, leaving Earth far behind. The journey back to Vera passed in a blur. Ethan barely noticed the stars streaming past the windows. His thoughts were consumed by questions. Who were these dissenters threatening peace? How had things escalated so quickly? And most importantly, what role did he play in all of this? When the shuttle touched down on Vera, Ethan was met by Lyra herself. Her face was pale, her usual calm demeanor replaced by visible tension. She embraced him briefly before pulling away, her eyes searching his. "I'm glad you're here," she said softly. "We don't have much time." "What's going on, Lyra?" Ethan asked, following her as she led him toward a towering crystalline structure nearby. "The dissenters, led by Elder Terran, are spreading fear among our people," Lyra explained. "They claim humanity is unpredictable, dangerous even. That allowing you to live among us has set a dangerous precedent. Some are calling for isolation, while others demand action against Earth itself." "But that's insane!" Ethan exclaimed. "Humans aren't like that." "I know," Lyra said, her tone heavy with frustration. "But fear is a powerful motivator. We need to prove them wrong, to show that humans and Verans can coexist peacefully. That's why we need you, Ethan. You're living proof of what's possible." Ethan swallowed hard, feeling the weight of responsibility settle onto his shoulders. "What do you want me to do?" "We've arranged for you to speak before the council," Lyra said. "Your words could sway their decision. But it won't be easy. Terran will oppose you at every turn. Ethan nodded grimly. Public speaking wasn't exactly his strong suit, but if it meant preventing a catastrophe, he'd give it his best shot. The council chamber was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Hundreds of Varans gathered in tiers surrounding a central platform, their shimmering forms casting colorful reflections across the walls. At the center stood Elder Kale, flanked by several advisors, including Taryn, whose sharp gaze locked onto Ethan the moment he entered. Lyra guided him to the platform, where all eyes turned to him expectantly. For a moment, Ethan froze, overwhelmed by the sheer number of beings watching him. Then he took a deep breath, remembering why he was here. "My name is Ethan," he began, his voice steady despite the nerves twisting in his stomach. "I'm a human from Earth. When Lyra crashed on my planet, I didn't know what she was, or what helping her would mean for me. All I knew was that she needed help, and I couldn't turn my back on her." He paused, glancing at Lyra, who offered an encouraging nod. "Since then, I've learned so much about Vera, and about myself. Your world is incredible, full of beauty and wisdom. But so is mine. Humans may not have advanced technology or centuries-long lifespans, but we share something important with you: curiosity. A desire to explore, to understand, to connect. Isn't that worth protecting?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd, and Ethan pressed on. "Fear divides us. It makes us see differences instead of similarities. But I believe we're stronger together. By working side by side, we can achieve things neither of our worlds could accomplish alone." Taryn stepped forward, their expression unreadable. "And what happens when your people betray ours?" they challenged. "How do we know this isn't a trick?" Ethan met their gaze squarely. "You don't. Trust has to start somewhere. Let it start with me." Silence fell over the chamber as the council deliberated. Finally, Kale rose to address the crowd. "Ethan speaks with honesty and conviction," they declared. "Perhaps it is time we embrace the unknown rather than fear it. Let us proceed cautiously, but let us proceed." Cheers erupted from many in the audience, though Taryn remained silent, their displeasure evident. As Ethan stepped down from the platform, Lyra rushed to his side, her eyes shining with pride. "You did it," she whispered. "For now," Ethan replied, knowing the battle wasn't truly over. Little did he realize, Taryn's opposition was only the beginning of a larger conflict, one that would test not just his courage, but the fragile bond between two worlds. The Council's decision to pursue cautious cooperation with Earth was a victory, but Ethan knew it wasn't the end. Taryn's icy glare lingered in his mind long after the chamber emptied, a reminder that not everyone shared Kale's optimism. The dissenters still held power and influence, and their distrust of humanity ran deep. In the days that followed, Ethan found himself caught between celebration and unease. Many Varans approached him with curiosity, eager to learn more about Earth and its people. Some even expressed gratitude for his efforts to bridge the gap between their worlds. Yet others kept their distance, watching him with suspicion or outright hostility. Lyra tried to reassure him. "Change takes time," she said one evening as they walked through the glowing gardens. "Not everyone will accept you right away. But what you've done, it's planted a seed. That's more than anyone could have hoped for. I just wish I knew if it would be enough," Ethan admitted. "What if Taryn finds a way to undo everything?" "He might try," Lyra conceded. "But don't underestimate the impact of your words. You gave hope to those who wanted peace. That's something he can't erase." Her confidence bolstered him, but Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that trouble was brewing beneath the surface. That trouble surfaced sooner than expected. One night, as Ethan prepared to retire to his quarters, an urgent message from Kale summoned him to the Central Command Center. When he arrived, the room was alive with activity, scientists and guards bustling around holographic displays showing strange patterns of energy near Vera's orbit. "What's going on?" Ethan asked, joining Lyra at the edge of the chaos. "Unidentified vessels," Kale explained grimly. "They appeared suddenly and are approaching rapidly. Their origin is unclear, but their trajectory suggests aggression." Ethan's stomach churned. "Do you think they're from Earth?" "We don't know yet," Kale replied. But whoever they are, they pose a significant threat. If they attack, we must be ready. As preparations began, Ethan felt a knot of dread tighten in his chest. Was this Terran's doing? Had the dissenters secretly contacted outside forces to sabotage peace talks? Or was it something else entirely? A third party looking to exploit the tension between humans and Varans? Whatever the case, Ethan knew he couldn't stand idly by. The next morning, Ethan accompanied Lyra to a secure observation deck overlooking the planet's atmosphere. Through the transparent walls, they watched as the mysterious ships drew closer, their dark silhouettes stark against the shimmering expanse of space. They're not human, Lyra murmured, studying the vessels intently. Their design, it's unfamiliar. Before Ethan could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. A voice crackled over the intercom. Intruder alert! Unauthorized entry detected in Sector 7. Sector 7, the very area where the council chambers were located. Without hesitation, Ethan and Lyra raced toward the site, arriving just in time to witness a group of shadowy figures emerging from a concealed portal. They moved with precision, their sleek armor reflecting faint traces of light. At their head stood a figure cloaked in darkness, their face obscured by a mask. Who are you? Kale demanded, stepping forward alongside a contingent of guards. The leader raised a hand, halting their advance. We are the Zethar, they announced, their voice cold and mechanical. And we have come to ensure the survival of all sentient beings. Ethan exchanged a confused glance with Lyra. Survival? What do they mean? It seems we've underestimated the situation, Kale muttered under their breath. The Zethar leader continued, addressing the growing crowd. Your attempts at unity are admirable, but misguided. Humanity and Vera cannot coexist without conflict. To prevent destruction, one side must prevail. We are here to determine which. Gasps rippled through the assembly as the weight of the declaration sank in. These invaders weren't there to negotiate, they were there to judge and destroy. Ethan stepped forward, his heart pounding. You're wrong, he said firmly, drawing the attention of both the Zethar and the gathered Varans. Differences don't have to lead to conflict. We can work together, find common ground. It's possible, I've seen it. The Zethar tilted their head, studying him with unsettling intensity. You speak boldly for someone so insignificant. Prove your claim, or perish alongside those you seek to protect. Tension crackled in the air as the Zethar raised a weapon, its barrel glowing ominously. Ethan clenched his fists, refusing to back down. He doesn't need to prove anything, Lyra interjected, stepping beside him. Her voice rang out clear and strong. We've already proven it. Together, we've shown that trust and understanding can overcome fear. Isn't that worth fighting for? For a moment, the Zethar hesitated. Then, with a swift motion, they lowered their weapon. Very well, they said. We will observe further. But know this, failure will not be tolerated. With that, the Zethar vanished as abruptly as they had appeared, leaving behind an uneasy silence. As the crowd dispersed, Kale turned to Ethan and Lyra, their expression grim. This changes everything. The Zethar won't leave until they're satisfied. And if they decide against us... They won't, Ethan interrupted, determination hardening his tone. Because we won't give them a reason to. He glanced at Lyra, who nodded in agreement. Together, they had faced impossible odds before. Now, with two worlds hanging in the balance, and the watchful eyes of the Zethar looming overhead, they would do whatever it took to protect the fragile bond they'd fought so hard to create. But the road ahead wouldn't be easy. For every step forward, shadows of doubt loomed large, threatening to unravel everything they'd built. And as Ethan stared out at the stars, he realized that the greatest test of all was yet to come.